Hello everyone, welcome to our brand new show, Aussie Talkies presents Brown Queen Diaries. This is a platform where we share incredible stories of women who are breaking barriers, redefining success, making their mark in this world. I'm your host, and this season we are bringing you the voices and journeys of inspiring women. Our guests come from all walks of life, united by their determination and resilience. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by various chapters of Brown Queen Diaries Season 1. Today's topic is strength in independence, and I'm excited to introduce our guest today, who is that brown girl who migrated from India to Australia at a very young age. She has gone through her challenges and battled them like a warrior. Let's go through her journey in this episode of Brown Queen Diaries. All right, welcome Ruchi. So how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this platform to talk about my journey of 22 years that I've been in Australia.
And pleasure is ours, and thank you for coming over and sharing your journey today. So before we jump in, let's know a little bit about Ruchi. So who is Ruchi?
So my name is Ruchi. I am from India, Gujarat. I'm a Punjabi, but born and brought up in Gujarat. I came here in 2002, and it's been an interesting journey, I would say, of last 22 years. I came here as a teenager, and here I am building my life, still building up my life over here. But I can proudly say now that I call Australia, Melbourne, my home.
Teenager, as in 22 years back, that would have been really different. Times are evolving every year, so things would have been really different at that time, and being
very
a teenager
different.
would have been really tough. So tell me about it. Like, what were your initial challenges when you first migrated to Australia?
It was a completely 360 degrees change for me, coming from a very different background, close-knit family, to coming to this place where I didn't knew anyone. Food, culture, people, there was lots to adjust. I think the first initial challenges, I would say, is the accent. Australian accent and slang is completely different to our Indian accent and slang, and understanding Australian accent was a bit difficult for me, even though I knew English. Still understanding the accent was quite challenging. I remember going to my uni. This was my first day at uni. It was an orientation day, and I couldn't even understand much. It was different. So the accent was challenging, and I would say the second part was the transportation. In India, you have two-wheelers, cars, auto rickshaws, to commute.
At your doorstep, right?
That's correct. But over here, we just had to rely on buses, trains, and walking.
A lot of walking. That was a shocker for me too. I had to walk until bus stop and then to train station. My God, that is a bit shocking. Nobody talks about, I guess.
That's correct. And especially with the weather in Melbourne, it rains, it's windy, it's cold for at least 6 to 8 months in a year. And walking in that rain, I remember walking once from my house to the train station. It was raining, it was windy, and tears were rolling down my eyes, thinking, what have I done? Why did I take this whole decision of coming to Australia and studying further? But then as the years passed, you just get used to of this lifestyle.
Yeah, of course, and I really love that now because I walk a lot, and it's like kind of counting my steps and putting myself in a fitness bucket. So
that's correct.
That's cool.
And I think the another big challenge was not being able to speak to your family. I came pre-fast internet era, where WhatsApp wasn't there. I don't know if some of the viewers might remember, some of the viewers wouldn't even know about Yahoo Messenger. So
we know. I mean, there is a generation that knows Yahoo Messenger.
So that was the only mode of communication back home. And I used to talk to my parents only twice a week. Once they used to call me, and once I used to call them. Phone calls were very expensive. and it was quite challenging, just taking every decision by yourself, not knowing what to do, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. You just had to just throw yourself in those challenges and just move forward in life, not thinking much about the consequences, because you're thrown in deep end and you just move forward. And this, when
and that too, you're very young at that point.
That's correct.
These look a little bit, the volume or the strength of these things are a bit more stronger when you're basically a little bit younger.
Young, that's correct.
Okay, and was there anything that stood out for you that you wouldn't forget till now? Like, is there anything that you would want to share that's something that stood out at that point in time?
Yes, I would. There are many incidents that when I look back now, I laugh about it. But I would like to share about one particular incident. This was just 2 months of coming to Australia, and I wasn't feeling well. And there was this clinic inside my campus, my uni campus, and I went to the doctor, and I just told him that I'm not feeling well. And I was so young, couldn't understand much of the accent, Australian accent, and he told me that we have to get a pap test done, pap smear test done, which I had no clue about what it is about. I mean, till today also.
A lot of people won't, but I think now the awareness is a bit more. But
exactly.
I would imagine back in India, I don't think so.
No,
but yeah,
absolutely not. And the doctor did the pap test. I came back home and I was so upset because I didn't knew what was happening to me. And but now when I look back, I just laugh at it and I'm thinking, that was a phase. That was a phase, and that's it.
That was something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, now that's one positive thing about having awareness, and now people are more educated towards it. People know what it is. But I think I can relate to what you're saying. Like, people would not know. No. Especially with the background that we have, I think there's not much of education around women's health and things like that.
That's correct. And now you can just, everything is on your fingertips. You can still Google search, and you can, if you don't understand something, you can just Google search it. You can find out on internet about things. But back then, coming to Australia now, if we talk about now, if someone wants to migrate to Australia, they would know, they can sit back home or wherever in any part of the world, they can sit down and they can find accommodation, they will have a plan. But back then it was just coming to Australia, and that's when things unfold for you. Good, bad, ugly, however it came, you just had to take it.
Perfect. So you have seen the days when it was difficult, like you said, your initial challenges, and now everything's like you can go onto internet and find whatever you want, right? How do you define like the differences, and what are the main things that you would call out, like something that you would appreciate about those times when there were little to no internet and kind of awareness of things, and something that you appreciate about now?
I would say the world is a different place now. Back then, there were so many challenges. A simple thing like catching a train. You can just get your phone,
plan your journey.
That's it. Back
life
then,
is easy now.
Life is very easy. Back then, we used to have this little timetables that we used to carry to check what time the next train is going to arrive.
Like a booklet.
It was not a booklet, so like sort of like a small card that used to have your journey planner, like just timetable. And if I'm going from one place A to B, it was a different timetable. And if I want to go from B to C, you have to carry another timetable. Completely different. And now it's like I can talk to my parents anytime. I can talk to my family anytime.
That's cool.
Sometimes when I go shopping, I can't decide what dress to wear. I can just ring up my mom. I can show it to her. It's like she's next to me. Back then, things were not easy.
How was the job situation at that point in time? Did you have
Job situation was very, very different. Nowadays, you have to go on 𝐒𝐭𝐫𝐞𝐧𝐿.com, or you have to apply online, and for a single job, you get about 200 to 300 applications.
Yeah, a lot of competition right now.
But if I tell you how I found a job back then, you're going to laugh about it. I used to hop on the bus, get my resumes printed out and just go
Door to door.
Door to door.
Yeah.
That's correct. In offices, I'm talking about proper offices. And you can go to any restaurants, you can go to Coles, you can go to like supermarkets, local supermarkets, and just drop your resumes and find a job.
Did you like it, or do you like it this way, where you can just sit at home and apply?
Things were different back then. It was simpler. Both things have their pros and cons. Now that when you progress in your career, I think that setup, what I did back then, wouldn't work because that was just getting your foot in your job market.
Yeah.
But now, when I've leveled up in my career, I can't do that. I can't imagine myself doing that.
Cool.
Yeah. So my first job was as a telemarketer.
Wow.
I hated it. I really hated it.
You got to be selling yourself, selling like products and selling your ideas.
Yes, and especially when you don't believe in those products.
Yes.
And also the downfall was it was commission-based job.
Okay.
It was not going to do much to me. So
Right, okay.
guess what happened there?
What happened?
I quit in 15 days. But in the meantime, as I said that I used to go door to door, I started telling offices, like the office I used to approach and give my resumes, I used to tell them I'm happy to do volunteer work also, just to gain experience. And I was doing Bachelor's of Business Administration, so I used to tell them I can do your admin work, start volunteering. And I was lucky enough, I started doing volunteer work at 2 offices. One was a proper corporate company, and one was just government-based organization.
So that kind of build your career pathway, portfolio.
Yeah,
that
that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's cool.
And I think the stars just align. In the corporate workplace where I was working, they had a job vacancy, but in a different office, not where I was doing the volunteer work. And I went for the interview. And I got the job.
That's your first job then?
That was my first job.
Awesome.
And that changed my life completely. It just changed my life, earning by myself, getting this pay in my bank account, looking at it and thinking, you just get empowered. You just feel safe now that, you have this kind of safety net. You're studying.
Education and having a job in general makes you a bit more independent.
That's correct.
That's really good.
That's correct.
So we're talking about you going through this journey and becoming this strong and independent girl where, we know that from when we are in India, we're fully taken care by our parents and, in a really protected environment, to a place where you have to do everything by yourself and also take care of yourself, in a social situation as well. So especially I talk to a lot of friends, I talk to you, I talk to multiple people in COVID times when there was lockdown. That was a very difficult period. Being single, being like by yourself without family, or being even some people are visiting and stuck in a country as well. So all of these people, especially that do not have support system, had faced a lot of issues, right? So now, as a person who's living by herself and with no family, no direct family, no relatives, just friend circle, obviously, how was how did you cope up? Was there any loneliness and things like that?
COVID, it was an interesting phase of my life. I don't think so anyone in this world didn't face downtime during COVID. It was different to pre-COVID and post-COVID era, I would say.
You're saying anybody in this world wouldn't have said that they did not face downtime.
That's correct.
So everybody had their own moment there. Yeah.
That's correct. I think when we first discovered about this COVID, we all thought, at least I thought, it's just going to last for 15 days and
Yeah, nobody would imagine that it would go at that scale, right? It was a bit of a,
Yeah, so in my head it was like, it's just like 15 days and that's it, we'll get to a normalcy. But that never happened. It just continued for 2 years, and we were stuck in very strict laws, especially in Melbourne, where laws were very strict. We were in lockdown for at least maybe 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even go outside 5 kilometers radius from where we stay. And
so what did you do? Like, did you feel that pressure?
I did. For first, I think 3-4 months, I just enjoyed. I'm like, oh yeah, working from home. But then slowly it started.
It fades away, right?
It fades
what are you
away.
going to do?
Yes, and it started taking toll on my mental health because there was no socialization. You couldn't go out. You couldn't meet anyone. You couldn't do anything. And even going to the supermarket, how many times can you go to the supermarket? It just started getting a bit depressing. But then I thought, this is not going to work. It's going to. But then I think I understood that this situation is going to last for a bit long. So I got into a routine. I started, meditating. I started going for walks. I started building up my social network, more social network, as in getting on phone calls more often, getting on video calls more often, talking to my friends, my colleagues, and just for getting into a routine. I think kept me a bit sane, but then after a while, it took a bad mental toll on me. I had to take up counseling, and
It was actually a bit of a thing on, like, a lot of people staying in one place and doing the routine is not going to, like, I can imagine the effects on you.
Yeah, especially living by yourself. Just imagine you have this house and you just looking at the doors and windows and the walls like all the time, just not having anyone to talk to, not having anyone to interact to.
So what were your things that uplifted you from there? What were you were saying that you then
had a regime, routine.
Yeah.
Yep. So first thing I think I started was going for walks in the morning, during lunchtime, and after work. And and after work, I used to get on calls with my friends and family. And one thing that I would like to say is that really helped me towards the end. I think it was just towards the end where they had this thing called single bubble. So
if I heard of single bubble, so you can meet your friends.
Whoever is single can visit me because I live alone and I can go to their place. So I had this friend who didn't live very far from me. We just connected. We were friends, but we were not that close. But during COVID, we just became close because she was alone, I was alone. We started talking, interacting more. She used to come to my house, I used to go to her house. We used to have dinners together.
That's good.
Yeah, sometimes just get a takeaway, sit at the beach for some time and just talk, and that was a good outlet, and that really helped me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
So let's go into the what turned one into this independent person, right? A lot of people can relate to that because a lot of us have migrated from India or different countries, and then we have to find our feet here. So what do you think are the major milestones in your life that you go through when you go to a new country? And you have to find your feet and become this independent person. Like, you don't have anybody to actually watch your back,
support you.
Yep,
give you guidance. I think first thing first that made me confident and independent was first getting the job. Till that time, like few years into the job, I was living in a shared accommodation with other girls and just mingling around. But then once I got a stable job, stable income, I had completed my education, I got my permanent residency, which was easier to get back then. I gathered the courage to rent my own house.
Yeah.
And renting a house, unlike today, you click, and you find what rental properties are available in your suburb. Back then, that was not the case. You had to go to real estate agent, every office, and collect a pamphlet that used to have a description of the house and when is the inspection and what's the rent.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different setup. And I used to do that every weekend, go to a lot of real estate agents' offices, get the pamphlet and then shortlist the houses and then go and visit them just to see how the house was. So I was lucky enough to find a property, and but I would like to share one incident what happened there as a single girl. Now since this topic is all about independent single girl and stuff, this real estate agent, he showed me the property, and he just looked at me and he said, this is all yours, then you can sign the lease anytime. I was very happy because I didn't have a rental history, so it was a struggle for me to find a property, but now I have this rental property. So I said thank you, and he looked at me and goes, so when do I get an invite for dinner? And I got a bit confused. He knew I was single.
Okay.
And the way
he made a move.
He made a move, and it wasn't just like standing there. He actually sat down on the kitchen bench top, and he looked at me and he said, "So when do I get invite for the dinner?" Ooh. And I looked around. I looked at him and said, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I got you the property." And then I just replied him saying, "And am I not going to pay you rent in return?"
Good on you.
And I think he got the idea that you can't mess around with me. So he got down and he said, all right, that's fine. You can come to the office anytime and sign the property papers.
Okay.
So, but that incident, left a big impact on my mind. Imagine after so many years also, I'm telling you this incident. The reason it left a big impact, because I thought to myself, whether it's India, whether it's Australia, whether it's any part of the world, single women or women, they're not safe. Not safe as in they're not. Men can just take you for granted.
Yeah.
When there is no man or no one standing behind you, you just have to fight for yourself.
So, were there any moments where you felt like you don't fit in?
Yes, definitely. Not so much now. Now, sort of, as I said, that I call this my home. But back then, sometimes I couldn't connect to the jokes in offices. People used to, mention about some jokes and about old movies or
references to some TV shows.
Yes,
which
I haven't watched, so I could not connect to that. And back then, I remember one of this incident that happened to me. Not so much now. I don't think so. If such situation comes to me now, I know how to react. But back then, in office, one of my manager asked, Indian cricket team were coming to Australia to play cricket, and he asked me if I knew that Indian cricket team is coming over to Australia. I said yes, and he goes, "How are they coming?" And I said, "By aeroplane." And he goes to me, "Oh, so India has airports?" And
oh my God.
At that time, I didn't understand what he was trying to say. And I said, of course, they do have airports. And how do you think I came here? But then he laughed. And that's when I understood that he was mocking India being a backward country.
Okay.
But
I mean, these days you don't get that kind of comments.
You can't. I don't think so. It's not appropriate.
Wow. Who is this person?
Let's not talk about that.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that just made me, a bit awkward or out of place. But now, I know how to interact. I know if at all I don't get the joke, how to react or just change the topic at that time. Yeah. You grow as a person and you understand things, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't see much of it, but generally a lot of people are welcoming. But there are some episodes like that.
That's true. Oh, Australian people are very welcoming. They're very friendly, I would say, very welcoming. And especially now, back then, they were still adapting to different cultures coming to Australia, because back then we didn't have many Indians living here, or many other cultures living over here, and now they're more welcoming, and they want to know more about India sometimes.
All right, so before we wrap up, do you have any advice for our audience?
Sure. I think first of all, when you come to Australia, have your support network. Slowly build up your support network, and anything that you have your friends, have your, make sure you have a support system from back home also. That's my support system. I rely a lot on my parents, my family back home. Of course, my friends over here too. Secondly, do not be afraid. Be confident. You'll make mistakes. You won't make mistakes. Things might work out. Things might not work out. When things don't work out, take it as a lesson and move on. Do not be afraid of anything. Australia is a very safe country. At least I feel. I've traveled a lot and I love traveling. And one of the safest country I would say is Australia. So do not be afraid. Do your homework. Do your research. If you want to, buy a property or get into anything that you want, things will pay off over here. And yeah, I think just keeping few things in mind. Just move on in your life, take it as a lesson, and like me, you can get there too.
Of course. Wise words, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
So Ruchi is one of us, just like us. She's migrated from India. She's done all the hard work. She's just sharing her journey. I'm sure a lot of people have the same experience, and I'm glad that someone's actually talking about it. We normally think that it is normal, it is mundane, but there is a lot of effort, and it is required to actually understand what goes through that process. So thank you for watching this episode, and thanks for coming into this episode.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
For watching this episode of Brown Queen Diaries. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories in our upcoming episodes. Until then, stay strong, take care.